My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people. All right, welcome back, guys, to another show. Today's guest, this gentleman, I met him at a local event, which I think is hilarious because I don't do a whole lot of local events here in the Dallas area. And this was like the first quote unquote networking event that I did. It was through Success Champions. I'm a member of that group, and we had a little mixer kind of thing. I went to go hang out, and he and I had a great conversation, just hit it off immediately. He's a systems, a processes guy, just like I am. Today's guest is Tomas Keenan, and he is, so here's his interesting story. He was renowned as a custom car audio installer, evolved to the COO after founding a top GPS tracking and dash camera installation company. Then he's transformed to a high-level business coach for successful entrepreneurs, which is what he's doing now. This is stuff that I actually met him from. He moved from New York City to Texas, which was great because that's how I got to actually meet him, and established the Step It Up Academy. So this is the fun thing about this, is that like Tomas came from an industry that had nothing to do with anything I have any experience in whatsoever, and he and I meet at a business event, learning about, he's teaching entrepreneurs how to build systems and processes, which is what I do in a very different way. I focus on the follow-up side. He focuses on the SOPs and the systems behind it. And he does some pretty awesome stuff. Sorry about that. He did some pretty awesome stuff. So I'm going to bring him on here. So Tomas, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Eli. Great to see you again. And it's funny. We met. We did a couple things, 2 live events within a very short period of time. We scheduled this recording, and I had to bail on you last minute about a week ago, which I absolutely despise doing, especially myself as another podcast host. It's like, man, I hate when people do that to me. And I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this to somebody else.
Yeah, it happens. It happens, and you know what? It's all working out. Yeah. And it's cool because, one of the things I didn't mention was that, we met at that event and we hit it off immediately. Mm-hmm. It was like you and I talked the same language, which is great because, especially from the geeky side, we talk about the geeky stuff and so many people have no clue about that. And you and I started going off. We're both have a lot of experience in previous software. I won't mention their name now. Confusing to a lot of people, but we're the ones that actually make it less confusing and do all the fun stuff behind the scenes. And then, you invited me to your event, and I got to hang out with not just you, but your people. And that really solidified that I knew you were going to be cool people and somebody that I wanted to hang out with more. So with that said, I kind of gave you a little bit of an intro, what's going on, but tell us a little bit more about how do you help your clients?
It's a great question. If you asked me that 2 years ago, my answer would be different. It would have been like, oh, I'm the systems of process guy. I've held the title of COO before in my life a few times, right? So operations focused. One thing that I've learned though, over, I don't know how many years of doing business, especially small business, is that I can't help someone grow a business beyond a certain point if I don't help the individual level up too. So what we started doing at Step It Up Academy is, all right, cool. I'm going to help you and uncover some things inside your business and point out, hey, you need a system here. You need a process here. You guys don't have anything for hiring. You don't have anything for onboarding. You don't even know what CRM stands for. So let's educate you there, right? And I'm not saying everyone, I'm just giving a insight here for a couple people. But what I found was if we went in and helped these folks build these systems, these processes, they couldn't necessarily continue running or operating them at a high level without the help of me and my team. So, all right, well, how do we fix this? And then it was like the light bulb went off. Like, oh, okay. Well, how did I fix it? Well, I fixed it. If I look back in time, going back to like 2015, when I started this journey into the self-development, business growth, business coaching space, I had to get better at myself. I had to level up myself and my mindset, my fitness, all of those things that, several others talk about, but they hold weight So basically my point here is if I bring somebody in, or if a client comes to me and they say, hey, I need help with this. I want to implement these systems in my business. I want to become more efficient. I want to get my time back because my business is running me rampant, or I have a lack of time courtesy of the business running me. How do I get better? All right, cool. Let's build the systems over here. Let me help you uncover and discover what's needed and where some of your pitfalls are. But at the same point in time, I have to help you, the individual, level up and grow so you can continue this path later on in life and business without me.
I love it. And that is very cool, because, that's one of the things even I struggle with, because I get sucked into the systems, the nuts and bolts of things. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I even started developing some stuff in that area is like, no, we got to look at the deeper side of things. And something that I know you do, like I recently actually did the audio version of your book while I'm going for my walk. Funny little fact with this, I don't know if you saw the post, but the day that you had to reschedule with me, since I had that hour open, I actually went for a walk and listened to your book at that time. So it was great. So it gave me a chance to actually catch up on it, because I had it. I just hadn't had a chance to read it yet. And I'm like, you know what? This is perfect time for it. And it was great. But you talk a lot about core values. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of talk. It's like core values is kind of a buzzword right now. Yeah. But what does that really mean to an entrepreneur?
The values that you live by, the values that you do business and do life by, correlate and come over into your company. And I think there's definitely a difference between business and personal core values. But there's a point in time where you are so intrinsic and so close to your business, especially in a startup phase, where your personal core values pretty much are your business core values. It became such a hot topic for me when I wrote the book. And mind you, the book launched in 2019. I was writing that book the year of 2018. So talking about core values even back then, and the core values is nothing new. It may be a buzzword now, but it is nothing new in the business space for those of us who've been around for a while and read some of the old school books. But they are the guiding principles that tell us what to do and what not to do if we want to stay in alignment to those values. And for me as an individual and as a small business owner for many years, my last service-based company in New York, we were doing a couple $1 million a year. We had about 25 or 26 full-time employees. And I struggled growing that business. And when I started hiring the coaches and diving in deep and looking at things, the reasons that we were struggling so heavily in many of the areas was because we didn't have the values clearly defined and established. And we weren't operating daily based upon those values. So I was able to live the pain points that I try to help other people through right now. Like I've literally been in those shoes before. I understand what's going to happen. I understand what's going to happen if you don't have a hiring process in place that leverages and utilizes your core values. You're going to bring the wrong people onto your team, and it is going to be very painful, right? Painful in turnover, hiring the wrong people, bad attitudes, people not showing up on time, people not showing up wearing the right dress code. Like we can go on and on and on and on. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we okay, let's put an actual hiring process in place. And through the hiring process, we're going to force people to jump through hiring hoops. And we're trying to extract the values from them without asking them the direct question. Because if I ask you, hey, are you resourceful, Eli? Of course I am. Right? That's going to be the answer. And that's just the human response. But until you prove it to me, it's trust but verify, right? Mm-hmm. Until you prove it to me, I'm okay. Well, you said it, but now let's go find out. How do we find out? We have situational based questions inside of the hiring process. We have actions that we're asking you to do inside of the hiring process. And if you don't follow these actions, if you don't answer these questions and give me some insight into who you are as an individual, as a person, like you're not going any further. And that was a really painful lesson, because as small business owners, and you may have been at this point at some place in your career too, because I've been here several times. We got so busy, had so much workflow coming in, and didn't have the right staff in place to fulfill the work that came in. Mm-hmm. At that point, it's like, okay, I can't personally work any more hours a week.
Yeah.
Okay. Like without literally not sleeping at all, which I pretty much wasn't anyway. So we say, hey, do you know anybody? Do you know? Hey, how about your brother-in-law over there? How about your sister's cousin's brother's third husband from Spaceballs, right? Bring him over here. Does he have a heartbeat and a pulse? I'll hire him.
Right.
Right. And when we do that, we are literally setting ourselves up for failure out of the gate.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you and I have talked about this. My previous company was a web and graphic design agency, and when I started with by myself out of my dining room. Started killing it. Opened up an office. I hired 5 employees. We're closing 3 to 5 contracts a week as web designers, which is good. That's really good. But wrong people, wrong position, and I was bringing in a lot of people that weren't keeping up. And next thing I knew, I'm going through and picking up the slack. And even though I had 5 employees, I was working 16 hours a day minimum, 7 days a week. And it almost put me under.
Yeah.
And so it is important to have that. And that's even to this day, I'm a lot more gun shy when I bring somebody in to work with me. So that leads me to a really good question that I think is going to be really powerful for people, because a lot of the people that are going to be listening to this are smaller entrepreneurs. Just, it's them. They might have one VA or something, it's a small team. What are some of the first things that they should do to start looking for that person and positioning themselves to be able to handle that first hire?
Oh, this is a topic we cover a lot. And
I figured it would be.
Yeah. I run all of my clients through this when they first become a member of Step It Up Academy, whether it's group coaching, one-on-one coaching with one of my coaches, or directly with me. And it's a 2-week long time study. And I'm the first one to tell you it is not fun to do. But basically, and I have a spreadsheet built for it and whatnot, so people can track this easily. But we are tracking every single thing we do for 2 weeks long, and we're breaking it into 15-minute increments. Right. And now I'm talking business, I'm talking personal, all of it. We're recording all of it. And you don't have to share it with anyone, but this tells us where we are wasting or spending time that doesn't need to be spent. Are you focused on the wrong activities that aren't really driving business, but are required for your business to operate? Right? Are you doing things at home that need to get done, but don't necessarily need to get done by you? We find and we discover, and I call them $10 an hour tasks, right? We find and we discover what these $10 an hour tasks are. And then we begin to build systems and processes around each of those tasks. And we use a methodology at Step It Up called G3, right? It's a G3 method. Your G1 is you have to get it done yourself. You have to get a good understanding of how to do it, right? Which most of us small business owners and entrepreneurs, we're in everything in our business. So that's a no-brainer. It's already done. So get it done. But this also gives you a really good understanding of what's required when it's time to hire and delegate, so you know someone's not going to fool you or pull the wool over your eyes. Step 2 is get it documented. We're going to find some way to document the way that we want it done so we can easily show others, right? So that's either recording Loom videos, putting some SOPs together, any kind of training you can put together on. And if you tell me that you don't have the availability to do that with today's technology, I'm going to laugh at you and I'm going to point you in the right direction. And finally, we got the G3, which is get it delegated. So once you get it done, you get it documented, then you get it delegated. It's a really simple formula, but I've been able to personally use that formula to scale multiple businesses over 7 and 2 of them over 8 figures. So if we use this simple formula, we roll things out and we push things forward, like it's going to work, but you have to consistently run this formula. And when you get enough of this stuff off your plate, you go back to the time study and say, okay, well, what else is on the list that I need to get off my plate? And eventually you're going to get yourself to a point where you're focusing on those higher dollar value activities for yourself. And that's exactly where you want to be, right? If anyone has seen the time study in the past, they go to my website and check it out. There's 4 buckets in total. There's $10 an hour task, $100,000, and $10,000 an hour tasks. As a business owner, you ideally want to operate in the last 2. $1,000 and the $10,000 an hour tasks. Does it always happen? No, but that's the goal, right? Where I find most small business owners operating is a $10 an hour bucket and a little bit in the $100 an hour bucket, right? So that right there is a problem. We need to change our mindset because most of us small business owners, we're taking a substantial amount of money out of our company. And it may not be in a W-2, it may not be in a distribution, but you're paying your car, you're paying your cell phone, you're paying your insurance, you're paying for your kids' braces and all that kind of stuff. All right, so you add all that up, and guess what? Hey, that's income, right? And I'm sure it's a lot greater than $10 an hour that you're taking home. Right. So at that point, if you're doing the $10 an hour task yourself, you're actually costing the company money. right? And I think that's a big misnomer too that a lot of people mix up. They think that their company bank account is their personal bank account, and that's just not the way it is. Those are two completely separate things. And that's a whole other topic that we can get into at a later date. There's lots of books written on that already.
Yep.
So
yeah. Well, and this is great. I love the G3 method, the way you've got it set up. I think that it's something that's really powerful. And the first step literally is document your day. You know, what are you doing? What are the tasks that you're going through? You know, for me personally, we're entering into 2024 right now, and I've gone through and like I'm looking at my calendar, and one of the biggest things for me personally that I found was that I have like calls, like I have interviews like this scheduled, or maybe I'm a guest on somebody else's show, or I have coaching clients, things like that. Those are all on my calendar. And then it's like, oh, I'll just fit in the other stuff in between. And for me, it was like, no, the big thing I need to change this year is put those specific tasks that need to be done in the calendar, which also helps me track what specifically are the tasks that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you brought up something that's really interesting. And I think that some people might think too extreme on this in the aspect of it's $10 an hour or, you know, $10,000 an hour. But the reality is you don't have to get rid of all those $10 an hour tasks right now. You can do it over time, because the reality is if you can manage to take 2 hours a day of the piddly stuff you've been doing and offset that to somebody else, that's like a VA for 10 hours a week, which is not that much.
Not at all.
And that's 2 hours that you can focus on, you know, lead generation or sales conversations, presenting, you know, getting on stages, things like that, which are those $10,000 tasks. And you start with just a couple of things, knock those off, and just knock a few more, and then eventually you're switching out those things and you're replacing yourself. You know, there's, and I wish I could remember his name now, but there was somebody years ago that had the whole thing was, how do you replace yourself? You know, it's like, I want to fire myself as a boss.
Yeah.
And that's the goal we want to be able to get to, not so we can sit around and do nothing, but so we can focus on the things that really are our unique ability, are the things we love doing, the things that can have the biggest impact, and of course, make the most money at the same time.
Yep. Yeah,
I love it.
Another misnomer too is like people often say, well, which of the $10 an hour tasks do I get rid of first? Okay, that's a valid question, because I bet, listen, we're both nerds and we like the tech geeky stuff. We can both get lost there for hours. Right? And a lot of that stuff, let's be real, is in the $10 an hour bucket. Some of the $10 an hour stuff you may thoroughly enjoy. That's okay.
Right.
But I guarantee you there's a couple of items in that $10 an hour list that you despise doing daily. Like for me personally, don't ask me to do anything bookkeeping related. I understand the importance of it.
Yep.
Do not ask me to enter that shit into QuickBooks.
You and me both, my friend.
Yeah. So that's when I start a business, like that's one of the first things that gets sent off to my firm is like, hey, you know, the business is in place, get to it, put the systems in place that you need to track this appropriately, set up the new QuickBooks account, and let's roll.
Yep.
Right. But it took years of me banging my head against the wall, trying to figure QuickBooks out and hating it to discover that. So my point here is if you've got a list of 10 action items that fall into the $10 an hour bucket, and 3 of them you despise doing, right? Get rid of those 3 first. Get those 3 delegated first while you hold on to the others.
Right.
And then basically reevaluate 3 months, 6 months from now.
Right. I love it. Now let's talk about the documentation side for a bit, because that's something I'm a big fan of. I love doing it. You know, Loom is my best friend. Even before Loom existed, I was using Camtasia to record videos for people for I mean, literally probably 20 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, when Loom came out, I was like, oh, this is amazing, because now, and for anybody who doesn't know, in case you don't, Loom is basically a recording software. It's super cheap. There is a free version, but even the paid version is not much. I think I pay like $100 for the year or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can literally, if the stuff that you're doing is stuff at the computer, you record that. And you record yourself doing it. And you just talk through the process. That way you can kind of explain, okay, we're going to go here and click this. We're going to go here. And this is why we do this. You record the whole thing. And then you can just hand that off to somebody else and have them watch the video. I do this with my team all the time. Like every time I create a new process that we do, I record a short little video, try to keep it as short as possible because sometimes I ramble a bit, but I keep it short. And every task is like, here, here's the instructions that walks through the entire process. And once they do it a few times, they don't need to, but they always have access to that video. They can come back, and when somebody new comes on board, the great thing with Loom is it notifies me that somebody new watched the video.
Yes,
and
it does.
So, yeah. So what are some of the pitfalls that people make when trying to start out to document their process? Because I know I struggle with this with clients when I'm trying to teach them this stuff. They make it way harder than it needs to be. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
I find a lot of people want to head over to the Google Doc or the Word doc immediately and type out this long-winded, boring-ass giant paragraph. And they want to get very granular from the start. I'm like, no, stop. We need a 30,000-foot view at first. Right. And then we can get granular. So my preferred method, I love Loom just like you do. For instance, you bring on a VA. You're like, okay, I've got these 5 tasks that I want to hand off to the VA. Okay, great. I'm actually going to climb into my software because most of us here, if we're using a VA, we're running some kind of software and we're handing off that software task to them. I'm going to record myself doing it exactly how I want it done inside of my software. That's my Loom video, right? So, hey, I don't know, add new contact to CRM, add new, drop this contact into a workflow, add this contact to a calendar, send the contact this information, that kind of stuff. So we actually record ourselves doing it, and there's your Loom video, right? And as you know, Loom integrates really well into a couple other softwares. They drop into ClickUp really nice. They drop into Google Documents really nice. When we have them dropped in there, we can just send that as the SOP. But if we want to get a little fancier with it, we can then take the Loom video link and drop it into something like Fireflies or Otter AI and send it out for transcription and notes that come out of it too. And they're not going to be perfect. You and I both know that because AI is involved. But at least it now gives us a framework to say, oh, okay, now I can take this, I can clean it up, and I can turn it into a written version of an SOP. Right? Because for those people watching, there's multiple ways that people learn, right? And I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but one of them is auditory, which is hearing. One of them is visual. And there's one other that I can't remember at the moment. But if we're able to, as a business owner, as a leader, if we're able to offer multiple ways, modalities for this person to learn how we do things, we're going to basically be able to help our people learn better and faster. Right. And I think that's a really big piece that a lot of people just skip over. Like, just send the guy the video. Well, what if that guy, his learning method doesn't align with just watching a video?
Right.
What if he has to read along with it too?
Yeah.
Right. So we just leveraging technology. Recording the Loom video, I think, is the best and first step, especially with what we have tool wise now. Send it over to Fireflies or something similar to it. Transcribe it. You have a bullet list of the 30,000-foot view action items that you talk about in the video. They give them to you in the transcription. Then you have the full transcription as well. So there's so many good pieces of the tools there that we can then go craft the written SOP. And if you have trouble crafting the SOP, copy and paste all of that into ChatGPT and say, hey, please create an SOP out of this for me. It's that simple.
Yep.
Right? It's that simple. And watch what magic comes out of that tool.
Yes. And you actually said the third one. You were talking about the 3 different modalities people learn. Video is the strongest, and most people are that way. Audio is the second, and reading is the third one. So that's actually technically the first one. And here's something kind of cool. And I don't know if you do this at all, but a lot of times what I will record the video and then I hand it off to the assistant and say, I would like you to create a step-by-step SOP for this and have them do that. Now, nowadays with things like Otter and all the cool things, I have a really cool piece of software I've started playing with that actually does, I'm using it for all kinds of stuff. But one of the things is creating the step-by-step checklist version, and it's doing a pretty good job. But back when I started this, we didn't have any of that stuff. So it was like, okay, here's my process. Watch the video, follow the steps, and just create a Google Doc that is a step-by-step process for me, and let them do it. Because then that also will help teach you if you need to explain something better.
Yes.
If there's something missing.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good way that I've used it in the past. And we have such amazing tools nowadays that'll do that. I mean, I just learned about a couple other ones. Actually, I think it was through your Facebook group.
Mhm.
Just last week, I think there was a Guide or something like that was another one that's really cool for helping create like checklist kind of things, like
Mhm.
create your SOP. And there's so many tools for that. But yeah, if you record the video first, then then let, whether you're using transcription using AI or whatever to help create it, or you just have somebody create it for you,
Mhm.
then you have the step-by-step process written out and the video reference so people can have both pieces. And if for me, I like it, once I learn it, I want the checklist to make sure I don't miss anything.
Correct.
And that's a big one with SOPs in my world. And I always tell my clients, you have to have this, not just for somebody else, but for you, because
Yeah.
you are human. You will screw up. You will drop the ball. You will
This
forget
is
something.
this is the duplicate systems are or should be something where you can duplicate your process over and over again, right? And the best way it was described to me many years ago was, and I've experienced this, I'm sure you have too. Like I still have some hair. Luckily and fortunately, you do as well. I mean, I have some up here that's going away. Um, but you go to a barber, right? And like I've been using the same barber now for about 3.5 years since I'm down here.
Okay.
Right? And he's guilty of this. And I tell him to his face. Love him to death, and he does a great job of my hair. But every time he comes in and does my hair, he starts differently. Right. So what's the process? What's the checklist? And dude, the dude's a master barber. He does a great job, but he has his own way of doing it. But what if you did the same exact thing every single time? So we're going to start by buzzing your sides over here first and fading you up. And then we're going to do the top of your hair. Then we're going to do the beard, right? For him, one day he walks in here and he starts on the beard first. And the next day he's busting out scissors and cutting. So my point is, even though you're the expert and you have the experience and you are going to create a good result at the end because of your experience and expertise, what if you actually had a process in place that said, no, we always start here first. Yep. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And this way you don't forget things and let things fall through the cracks. Because there's those days where you're crazy busy, your mind's someplace else while you're performing the task. Those are the days where you say, oh shit, I forgot to do the lineup on the dude's mustache or something, or I forgot to cut the guy's nose hair out, right? Like those are the things that are just real. So what if you had a process or a checklist in place to ensure that everything was done the proper way?
Right. I love it. And that is so important. People don't, we as the experts in our craft, we think we know it all. And, we may for the most part, but we get distracted. Things happen. And I found that, like for myself, like I was saying, I put those checklists in place for myself as much as for somebody else. And the great thing is, like as an example, I had an assistant that was working with me for one point, and we were doing a bunch of quote memes. And I developed the process. It was a 5-step process, and it was great because I would do step 1. She would do step 2, 3, and 4, or no, 2 and 3. Then she would hand it back to me to do step 4, and then I would hand it back to her to do step 5. But if I hadn't taken the time to break that down and create that exact task 1, task 2, task 3 process, it would have gotten screwed up.
Yeah.
I mean, just guaranteed. And the great thing, it was just cut and dry. I go into our project manager and I have, these 10 things that I need to do, which are, 10 step 4s. And I'm like, I knock them all out real quick. And I'm like, cool. She does all the rest. It's all in place. These were social media posts. So it's like, she's getting them all done. They're all recurring, doing all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, to this day, that stuff's still working for me, and it's when you do that, you take the time to do it, which I think is a lot of people struggle with this, taking the time to build the process, build the system. That's where they fall short because they're like, I just need to get it done.
Yeah.
What do you want to say about that?
Taking the time to get it done. There's a lot to it, right? I've heard all the excuses. I don't have time for that, right? I'm so busy right now. I don't have time to document anything because then the work I'm doing will never get done. And there's validity to that. I'm telling you from firsthand experience. However, if you continue to do that and go down that path for eternity, you're never going to get out of your own way. You're never going to build a process that can then get handed off or delegated to somebody else. So at some point in time, you're going to have to bite the bullet. And if you don't, like, what you have right now is what you're always going to have, and it's not going to grow any further than what it is. That's just as simple as it is.
I love it. Very, very straightforward. All right. Very cool. So this has been a fun conversation, my friend. And I knew it was going to be. I knew we'd talk about some good stuff. You dropped a ton of great nuggets. Mm-hmm. What is the very first step people should take?
The time study, for real, right? You have to know where you're spending your time and what's proper, what's not. If you wanted to, maybe you've done that already. Maybe you understand where you're spending your time and you're going down that process. Then if that's the case, then go and make sure you've got core values established.
Nice.
Right. Because those two things are mandatory, in my opinion. Right. You have to understand what you're doing as a business. You know, the core values let you know if the client's right or not right for your organization. Mm-hmm. There's a whole long-winded rabbit hole we can go and dive into with that alone.
We might have to make another episode for that one.
Yeah. If people are interested in that too, I highly suggest that they can just go grab a copy of my book. It's on Amazon for like $9. And we cover that heavily in the book too.
Awesome. Love it. Very cool. Okay. So this is the Meet Cool People show.
Yep.
So what does Meet Cool People mean to you?
You know, you never know who you're going to meet. Can I tell you a story? I like telling stories.
Go for it.
The night I met you, I walked out of that place we were at, right? And it was at the Colony, over here in Texas. And I was wearing a G3 shirt that night.
I remember.
Yep. I walk out and I go to the valet and waiting for my vehicle. And there's a guy standing there with his wife, and this fancy ass car pulls up, maybe a Bentley convertible or something, which is not uncommon here in North Dallas. And older guy in his probably late 60s, all gray hair, dressed nice. And from the driver's door, he's getting into the car. He sees my shirt and he goes, "What's that mean?" And I said, "Okay, well, this is what it is." He was like, "Oh," comes over. I wound up having a conversation with this guy for like 10 minutes while his wife's sitting in the car, and she's giving us the look like, "Hey, can we go now?" Right. Long story short, I wound up exchanging information with this guy. I hopped on a call with him a couple days later, and he owns a really big MLM here in Dallas, selling some health food stuff. So wound up having a great conversation with this guy. We stayed connected. Hey, if I can do anything for you in the future, let me know, kind of deal. Got a good understanding of what I do. Like, did it go anywhere? Not really, but who knows where that's going to go 3 months from now, 6 months from now. That to me is meeting cool people, right? That's being open to actually having conversations with others who you may not have thought you would have a conversation with.
I love
right?
it.
That's you. Oh, you know what? Hey, man, those nice pair of shoes you got on over there, right?
Yep.
And you never know where the conversation is going to go. That to me is meeting cool people. That is also the importance. And this is something I've personally struggled with too. We get ourselves into these home offices because you and I both work from home for the most part. We get ourselves into the home office. We get ourselves into this routine and we live in our little bubble of our home. We go to the gas station. We go to the food store. We go home. Like, that's about it, right? Add the gym in there for me. And like, I don't go anywhere. Real boring 44-year-old guy. And we live in this little bubble. But if we get outside of our bubble, it allows us to meet cool people. Because if I hadn't gone out that night, if you hadn't gone out that night, you and I would not have connected and we wouldn't be here today recording this.
Yes. I love it. I love it very, very much. And again, you and I talk the same language. I call myself the poster guy or poster boy for what not to do to the whole don't talk to strangers. Because I will talk to anybody at any point. I have a great conversation with some of the most amazing people. My joke is that I've actually done sales in the drive-thru at Starbucks before. And it's literally just because you never know where a cool conversation is going to lead. And that's really what it boils down to. So I love it. I love that you shared that. So last question. Obviously, you have some pretty amazing stuff. You shared a few great nuggets today. People are going to want to find out more. How can they get a hold of you? Real
simple. I keep it real easy. And I want to give a tip out here for anyone else who does this. And you'll understand this as a marketer, sir. It pains me, and I'm guilty of this too. When I first started podcasting, it pains me when someone comes on the show and tries to give out 10 or 15 different links to places you can find them. It's confusing as all hell to the listeners. So to simplify it, I'm going to give the listeners one link, right? It's connectwiththomas.com. And Thomas is actually Tomas. There's no H in it. Connectwiththomas.com. If you go to that link right there, you'll find me on my social media, my websites. You'll be able to click a link by my book. There's my contact information. All of my stuff is there. Yep. So just to keep it simplified, head over to connectwiththomas.com.
Yep. Where'd you get that idea from?
I started looking at Linktree.
We talked about it.
Yeah, I started looking at Linktree a couple of years ago. Oh, that's a pretty cool idea. And I was like, well, all Linktree is a landing page with a couple of buttons.
Yep.
So why can't I just recreate that in my landing page software? And at one point in time, I had it on this one, then it switched to this one. And now, similar to you, I'm a high level user. Right. And they have templates now inside a high level called Linktree templates.
Yep.
So, okay. I'm not a web developer, but I know enough about clicking buttons inside software to make something decent come together.
Yeah.
So I went in there, grabbed the template that I said, oh, that one looks decent. And I changed some of the images. I changed the fonts. I changed the colors, and poof, there you go. I have this professional looking landing page that replaces ClickUp. Jesus Christmas. Replaces Linktree. And the beauty of it, it's free. It's part of the subscription that I pay for inside of High Level already. Yeah. So it's one more tool inside of that software that I can leverage every single day. Yeah. And what I love about it is it tracks the stats. It shows how many people have viewed the page. And between the page it's on now and the page that it was on in the past, another landing page software, I mean, I've got thousands of clicks on those links that I can track, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. That is awesome. All right. So once again, that is connectwiththomas.com, and it's TOMAS, no H in there. Be sure you make a note of that. I always have to check that too, because mine is connectwitheli.com and people spell ELI. So I totally got you covered there. Awesome. This has been a lot of fun, my friend. I'm glad that we got to spend this time together. We will definitely have to bring you back. We'll do some more talk about the core value stuff. Any just last words?
Yeah, just get started and don't expect to build it all in a day, right? Because it's just not going to happen. I think that as entrepreneurs, a lot of us are wired. We have this crazy idea, and then we have this unrealistic timeline of how much time and how much work it's going to be required for it to come to fruition. We have the idea, we visualize it, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, great. That thing's going to be done by next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, you haven't even sent the email to the person asking them about their advice on how to build it. Right. So just take the small steps, get yourself prepared, and expect it to take a lot longer than you think it's going to take. And don't give up ever. Awesome. Love it, my friend. Thank you so much for visiting with me today. And for everybody listening, definitely connect with Tomas. You've got the website. Follow him. Stay in touch with his stuff. He's got some really great stuff. His podcast is amazing. His book is definitely something you need to read. I'm going to put it on my list of everything that my clients should be reading moving forward. And with that, get out there. Have an amazing day. Look forward to talking to you soon. If there's anything I can do to help you out, reach out and let me know. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. If you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to followuprockstar.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to followuprockstar.com and we'll see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rockstar.